Today on Up with KREM, Washington is known for its outdoor access, but now budget cuts are closing campgrounds and limiting recreation. What it means for your next trip outside.
Plus, I'm tracking your weather forecast where we are going to see some drier conditions across the region and temperatures close to average.
Plus, if you're hitting the hiking trails this spring, experts have some important and possibly life-saving tips to share. Good Sunday morning. Thank you for joining us here on Up with KREM. I'm Brandon T. Jones. Lots of news we are going to get to here in the next hour or so. But first, let's start things off with Jenny Power over in the Weather Center. Jenny, we've had a lot of good and beautiful weather over the last few days, but still getting a little chilly in the mornings. What do we have in store for us today?
Yeah, that's right, Brandon. It was another chilly start here across the region. Not quite as widespread freezing temperatures as what we saw yesterday morning and even the morning before that, but it's enough here where you'll notice the chillier start here to your Sunday morning. But as we move forward, what we'll see weather-wise here are mostly sunny skies, but the slight chance of a stray pop-up shower here and there. So something to be aware of as we move into the beginning of this afternoon as well as this week. Daytime highs were trending at about 56 degrees for Spokane and Coeur d'Alene. That's still slightly below our average, but we're looking at some low 60s for Colville, mid 60s for Omak, 66 degrees for Moses Lake, and we're even looking at some low 70s south to Richland there in the Tri-Cities. So we're starting off dry, but what we'll watch for into this afternoon is about a 10 to 20% chance here of a quick passing shower. Again, we are sitting mostly dry for the region. It's because of an upper level disturbance primarily impacting Montana that could deliver us a quick hitting shower before we see drier conditions into this evening. When we could see a warm up in our temperatures, that's ahead.
Well, happening tonight, both Coeur d'Alene Fire Department and Kootenai County Fire and Rescue will be lighting up their fire departments red. It's part of the Light the Night for fallen firefighters. Their building will be red starting today until May 3rd. Then, on May 3rd, Battalion Chief John Morrison of Coeur d'Alene Fire Department and Battalion Chief Frank Harwood of Kootenai County Fire and Rescue will have their names added to the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial. They say the community can support by installing a red light bulb at their home or business. Well, recreation sites are closing across Washington state because of budget cuts to the Department of Natural Resources. KREM 2's Connor McAvoy tells us what outdoor enthusiasts here in Spokane have to say about it.
Adam Gebauer is the Public Lands Program Director for the Lands Council in Spokane. It's a nonprofit aimed at helping to revitalize inland Northwest forests, water, and wildlife.
We love getting folks out to experience their local nature. That's one of our main missions, is show how accessible our public lands can be for folks.
But right now, Gebauer says that mission is getting harder at recreating sites across the state. The Washington Department of Natural Resources announced they're cutting recreation services and closing some campgrounds due to state budget cuts. DNR says the budget cuts are increasing an ongoing lack of funding for maintenance and staff, leading to a more than 20% reduction that passed during last year's legislative session. In total, DNR says there was roughly $8 million in cuts to their recreation program in the past 2 years. 11 campgrounds are impacted, including 3 full closures for parks this year. This includes the Rock Lakes Campground in Okanogan County. Gebauer says the cuts are disappointing to people wanting to recreate across the state.
Washington is known for its outdoor rec opportunities. So anytime those are underfunded, it's just unfortunate.
He hopes more work gets done next year to try and restore funding so more people can enjoy wildlife across the state, and he hopes cuts don't come closer to Spokane.
If folks have a particular spot that's being impacted, it'd be great to reach out to DNR to figure out if there's ways for volunteers to help maintain trails or keep sites open.
Connor McAvoy, KREM 2 News.
Well, if you're getting outside this weekend, some things to be aware of because of all of the weather we've had this spring. Hikers in the Northwest have been dealing with wet conditions on our trails. So if you plan on hiking soon, make sure to be prepared. Search and rescue teams say they've seen hikers end up lost or stuck for hours or even days just trying to take a shortcut. Remember to always pack water and some snacks, keeping protein in mind and considering packing a tarp.
Make a little pitch over a log and you get underneath it. I think that's one of the great little secrets of how to survive the night.
Also, make sure to have a power bank for your phone, a headlamp, and potentially a fire starting kit. And as we stay outdoors, it's also tick season. It's back this year, and it could also be worse this year. The CDC says each year almost 500,000 Americans are diagnosed and treated for Lyme disease. That's the most common tick-borne illness. The 2026 Tick Outlook says we will continue that trend. The upper northeast is ground zero for ticks, but the population has been expanding more north and west because of warmer temperatures. Keep in mind, you have to weigh the bad with the good. Don't let the tick season ruin the benefits of being outdoors.
My recommendation is stay away from any vegetation. Stay on the trails. Don't touch anything in terms of limbs or branches or certainly vegetation where they're waiting to latch onto you.
All right, so if you are worried about ticks, there are some things you can do to prevent getting bitten, things like using insect repellent and hiking in longer pants or socks. So if getting out and hiking isn't your thing, we've got you covered with quite a few events going on today. We're going to go ahead and tell you about it. It's time for your weekend What's Up. First up, the Idaho Conservation League is doing an Earth Day shoreline cleanup today. It'll be at the City Beach in Sandpoint from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. You just have to bring a reusable container and some gloves. Also today, the Northwest Improv Fest is this weekend. It's from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. tonight at the Spokane Convention Center. There's going to be 18 different acts and more than a dozen different workshops. This weekend is also the anniversary of a festival that helped shape the music scene here in the Inland Northwest. Greenstock was a late 80s house party that exploded in size only to fall apart. You can watch our special Mud, Music, and Mayhem, the Greenstock Story. It's streaming right now on KREM 2+, and here's a preview.
The Glory Days.
Greenstock, 1989! The biggest best team ever seen in Pullman!
And it really was a joke. It was the guys who lived at the greenhouse, which was this legendary party house at Wazoo, saying, could we really have every band in Pullman play at our house?
It was a lot of friends throwing a big party.
And everybody made the pilgrimage to the wheat fields, those crazy college kids.
At some point, they moved it outdoors.
The police had kicked in the door to my house with a warrant that said attempting to throw a party without a permit.
They figured there was 14,000 people here.
Mud, erosion, stream choking silt.
If you just do what you're told, you'll never do anything. But if you don't do what you're told, you may well completely have a disaster on your hands.
Alrighty, another quick reminder about Diaper Drive that is coming up. We still need volunteers though, so we can give families in the area the diapers that they need. The Diaper Drive starts tomorrow, and there are a lot of opportunities to help out. And we give all of these diapers to Vanessa Behan, who then hands them out to families who need that help. And just a few hours of volunteering can make a huge difference. You can sign up right now on KREM.com to volunteer, and you just get the opportunity to pick your time and location.
I'm all for it. We need more affordable housing in Spokane in general.
All right, still ahead on Up with KREM. More than $1 million could be headed to Spokane's West Central neighborhood, what the city is considering this week.
I get to be that yes person, and that makes me so happy to be able to tell families yes.
And later, a local child care expanding services after they got a big grant from the state. Well, the city of Spokane is considering expanding affordable housing in one of its oldest neighborhoods. As KREM 2's Connor McAvoy reports, a $1.2 million proposal going to council would use tax money to rehabilitate homes in West Central.
You don't have to go far in the West Central neighborhood to see the mix of housing styles people call home.
You got some bigger, older, nicer homes over there and some kind of smaller, more rundown places throughout the neighborhood and everything in between.
That's what West Central neighbor Isaac Harmson says makes the area a unique place to live. And now a rehabilitation project through Habitat for Humanity could add to that uniqueness. The city of Spokane is looking to put more than $1 million toward affordable housing in the West Central neighborhood. The money would come from the West Quadrant Tax Increment Financing, or TIF, district, which takes added property tax revenue from new developments and reinvests it into surrounding areas for projects like infrastructure improvements and permanently affordable housing. The proposal would direct $1.2 million to Habitat for Humanity to rehabilitate up to 7 homes in the neighborhood, creating long-term affordable home ownership opportunities.
I'm all for it. We need more affordable housing in Spokane in general.
Harmsen says while he understands the need for affordable housing, he still has questions about how projects like this would come together and where they'll end up.
And what the cost of living will be, how it'll affect everybody else's property values and taxes.
If approved, the city says funding would help turn distressed properties into stable, affordable homes for local families. It now heads to City Council for a vote during their meeting on May 11th. Connor McAvoy, KREM 2 News.
And I'm tracking your forecast where we will see some sunshine today, as well as also a warming trend that comes next week.
Well, childcare is a huge expense for parents across Washington. The state of Washington just announced it's also expanding access to childcare. KREM 2's Christian Garza explains how this could impact our local providers.
Now we can say, yep, we're going to have spots for you.
Millions in state funding now giving local childcare facilities the opportunity to expand or maintain services.
In the last 10 years, I've seen a huge influx of needing care in not only just part-time care, but full-time care as well.
Something Jessica Featherstone, the director of Guardian Angels Childcare for over a decade, says is giving much-needed relief to a growing issue.
I feel like this grant is really giving other centers, including us, that opportunity to really branch out and offer more to the community. And then not only that, but then giving more quality childcare out there and making parents feel like there's more of an opportunity to be able to continue to work and not have to worry about what they're going to do for childcare wise.
This month, Washington Governor Bob Ferguson announced the grant funding with over $55 million going towards 74 different childcare facilities, 13 of which are from Eastern Washington.
I've been the one that has to go to work and leave your kids behind, and I just wanted to really bring to the community something for them to do.
Guardian Angels childcare owner Christy Garcia says they were awarded over $1.6 million, and that will go towards acquiring a new building to double the amount of children they can help.
When I had to turn people away, it breaks my heart. Childcare in general, again, being a working mom, I know what it's like, and you want your kid to be dropped off where they're given those hugs, where they have a curriculum, where they have routines, where they're learning social skills. And so, yeah, it's a big need in this community.
Garcia says half the grant money will go towards refurbishing this old elementary school by Feltz Field to its former glory. Staff says right now the biggest hurdle is getting it up to code as soon as possible.
We want to tell everybody else all the time, and sometimes it isn't, and it breaks our hearts. So I really feel like with this new center opening that I get to be that yes person, and that makes me so happy to be able to tell families yes and be an option for them.
Guardian Angel Academy hopes to have the new building up and running by next summer. In Spokane Valley, Christian Garza, KREM 2 News.
It's time to break down your forecast and what we are seeing here on this Sunday. It has been a little bit of a chilly start here as we've been waking up across the inland northwest. So just know that after this colder start, our temperatures are going to climb back into the low to mid 50s, which is still slightly below our average, but we'll see a gradual warming trend as we move through the end of this week. Now, today we are going to see a good amount of sunshine. However, we still have this slight chance of a hit or miss shower, but we'll get into that in just a moment. Your temperatures that we're reaching this afternoon, we're at 56 degrees for Spokane and Coeur d'Alene, 57 for Deer Park. We do have some low to mid 60s for Ritzville and Moses Lake. 70 degrees is what we're looking at south to Richland in the Tri-Cities. And then for my friends in the LC Valley, some upper 50s to low 60s that direction. And out toward western Montana, they're trending a little bit cooler, just 49 degrees for Libby and 48 for Kalispell. Now, as we get into your future tracker here, we're off to a drier start to the day today. We'll gradually see some partly cloudy skies as we head into this afternoon. And similar to what we saw yesterday afternoon, because of a disturbance that's primarily impacting the state of Montana, we're looking at a very slight chance of a hit or miss shower here and there. So just know that it isn't going to be too impactful. In general, we're trending mostly dry, but it's at about a 10 to 20% chance where we could quickly see that this afternoon before we start to see some increasing clouds overnight tonight and into the start of our Monday. As we look across the rest of the nation here, We're sitting at 80 degrees this afternoon for Tulsa, 89 for Dallas. In Portland, Oregon, we're at 66 degrees this afternoon, 61 for San Francisco, 79 for Phoenix, and out toward Atlanta, 83 degrees is that daytime high. But I want to show you what's to come, because actually when it comes to this upcoming week here, we're going to be trending a bit above average and warm for the incoming week. So as we take a look at the rest of the nation, you know, that's not entirely true. The Pacific Northwest is going to be trending warmer when it comes to our seasonal averages and what we're used to seeing. We've got cooler air moving into parts of the Midwest as well as even toward parts of the South. But as we move into Bloomsday here, this is going to be helpful as we're getting a first look at some drier conditions as well as warmer temperatures through that extended forecast. So when it comes to planning things out accordingly, if you've been wanting some warmer temperatures, we kind of just have to get into the middle to end of this upcoming week.
Well, still ahead, we know you love your pets, but when does it make sense to insure them? Coming up, the math behind pet insurance policies. Well, owning a pet is getting more expensive, and sudden medical bills can make that matter much worse. Jeff Wagner explores whether insuring your pet is the right move.
Do you have insurance for your pet?
No, I don't.
I used to for a while.
I do not, no.
That response at this Minneapolis dog park was not a surprise. It's estimated there are 163 million dogs and cats in U.S. households, but only 6.4 million are insured. That's less than 4%.
I don't think it's worth it.
I just haven't pulled the trigger on it.
After getting bills and seeing how little of the preventative care it covered, I just opted to cancel it and hope for the best. The pet insurance industry is relatively new, and experts say that's partly why there's so few policies, but it is growing. We wanted to know, is pet insurance worth the money? Good question. We visited All Paws Animal Hospital in Edina to talk with medical director and veterinarian Amanda Mickelson.
Yeah, I think it definitely has its place, and I think it can be really helpful for a lot of my clients. There's a lot of different kinds of pet insurance.
The three main categories are accident only, which covers unexpected emergencies like broken bones, accident and illness, which adds in sickness and disease, and wellness, which covers routine work like vaccinations and yearly exams. Depending on which you buy, the average monthly premium for a dog is about $62, while a cat is $32.
If I get it discounted through work, I think it's more beneficial than if you're paying $70 to $100 a month, I'd say.
I will say where I tend to see more of the glad we had it and didn't need it sort of situations in catastrophic and sick. More on the wellness side of things, if you're a good budgeter and you can put aside a certain amount of money every month, there's where I say, you know, maybe you can do that more on your own.
Pet insurance will usually cover 70 to 90% of vet bills, which is especially helpful for surgeries and treatments that total in the thousands.
And, you know, I thought in the event of something catastrophic would be a good idea to have.
Owners still have to pay the vet bill up front. Reimbursement from insurance comes later.
If that seems valuable to you, experts say start the policy early in a pet's life, ideally before medical issues start.
You just have to be very careful when it comes to pre-existing conditions. Unfortunately, pet insurance isn't like human insurance, and the coverage for pre-existing pet conditions can be zero.
With photojournalist Jose Pascual, Jeff Wagner, WCCO News.
Still ahead, for 32 years, a family waited for answers in a murder case with no arrest. Now we're learning investigators had the DNA all along. So what went wrong? Ahead on Up with KREM, they had the key evidence, but no one was arrested. The troubling questions now surfacing in a 32-year-old murder case. Plus, after one of their regulars was deported by ICE, a Washington grocery store says its other customers stopped shopping. What they're doing to stay afloat. And new this morning, the Pacific is getting more and more acidic, why it could spell trouble for fisheries up and down the coast. Good Sunday morning, and thank you for joining us here on Up with KREM. I'm Brandon T. Jones. Lots of headlines we'll cover here in the next half hour, but first we want to go ahead and get over to Jenny Power, standing by right now in the Weather Center. Jenny, how are things looking like for our Sunday and then, I guess, the week ahead?
Yeah, Brandon, as we take a look at the forecast here, it has been a cooler start to the day today, but we are going to see a good amount of sunshine here to kind of finish out our weekend. So if you've got Sunday plans, it is going to be looking nice, but we do have the very slight chance of seeing a stray shower here and there, which we're going to get into. Temperatures this afternoon are reaching the mid-50s for Spokane. We'll be right at about 56 degrees. That is still a little bit below our average. That's also what we're looking at for Coeur d'Alene. We do have some low 50s for Bonners Ferry, but on the board, even some low 60s for places like Colville and out toward Ritzville, mid 60s this afternoon for Moses Lake. Now, we're waking up to dry conditions for now, partly cloudy skies into this afternoon. And because of a disturbance actually over in Montana, we have about a very slight chance. We're talking 10 to 20% chance of seeing a quick hitting shower. So just keep that in mind, especially if you have any outdoor plans for this afternoon. But it is a predominantly dry forecast for us. Moving into tomorrow, it will be a very similar weather pattern. And gradually for this upcoming week, we are going to see our temperatures warm. Not quite into the mid 70s, but how warm we could eventually get, that's what I'll be detailing out in my extended forecast. Brandon?
Well, a Washington grocery store says immigration enforcement is now affecting business. The owner of Plaza Latina says fewer customers are coming in because ICE detained one of his regulars back in January. The feds arrested Ivan Guzman as he was on his way to drop his baby off at daycare. Before that, he stopped at Plaza Latina for a meal. The store manager says some customers are now avoiding the area altogether.
Yeah, there's a lot more. In the past, we actually had to have 3 or 4 cashiers, and right now we only have 2, and there's fewer people at other positions as well.
Guzman, the man detained in January, was deported to Mexico shortly after. And in other immigration news, you could be considered a Canadian citizen thanks to a recent law in Canada that lets anyone with documented Canadian ancestry claim citizenship. No residency, no waiting list, just paperwork and a family tree. Immigration attorneys here in Washington say they're now being flooded with clients. Last year, attorney Terry Predshaw had 4 clients seeking Canadian citizenship. Now she has 50.
This is like the golden ticket that, not that they're necessarily going to use it, but it's like insurance. Why do we buy insurance? Not because we want to use it.
She says it's less about leaving America and more about knowing you can. Well, all new this morning, a University of Washington study shows that the water off the state's coast is getting more and more acidic. It could spell trouble for fisheries here in Washington. Here's more from Leah Pozzetti.
Ocean acidification, a global problem, is intensifying in the Northwest, and that's having a domino effect on our ecosystems and food.
Marine organisms that make shells or skeletons, whether that's oysters, crabs, corals, they rely on having the right ocean chemistry around them. And as that ocean chemistry changes because of us, it makes it a lot harder for them to grow.
A study from the University of Washington shows industries like Dungeness crabbing, the largest fishery on the West Coast by revenue, is expected to experience massive decline.
There's been a really big question about how coastal regions, like the really productive fisheries along the west coast of the U.S., the places where we live, work, and play, how the extra carbon dioxide is going to affect them.
Alex Gagna, principal investigator on the study, says West Coast waters are naturally acidic because of something called upwelling. That's a process that drives cold, nutrient-rich, deep waters up to the surface. It has its benefits and creates nutrient-dense oceans where many species thrive. But this water is also naturally more acidic. Then, when you add in the fact that the ocean absorbs a quarter of the carbon dioxide emitted from humans in the air, it creates extra acidic waters. This study proving the problem is getting worse faster. Daunting information made possible by a small creature. Cup corals collected more than 130 years ago capture the makeup of ocean waters before the Industrial Revolution, showing the change.
The U.S.'s first purpose-built research vessel, the USS Albatross, old wooden tall ship, was going up and down the west coast of the United States in the 1890s, 1880s, looking for halibut fisheries. And there were scientists on board who were dutifully, when they were looking for halibut, anything else they got in their nets, they were putting in jars, taking notes and writing. We still have the log books from the 1880s, 1890s, and sending them to the Smithsonian.
Something he hopes people will see and know, in the same way we caused this, we can also be the solution.
The thing that gives me hope and many of the people that work in this field is that we can make a big difference. The amount of carbon dioxide we emit is really what controls our future. And so in many ways, this sort of information can be empowering. It helps us understand like what we have to do.
Well, exposure to wildfire smoke could greatly increase the risk of several different cancers. The University of New Mexico study found that wildfire smoke doesn't just harm the lungs, but also the blood, and that can spread carcinogens throughout the whole body. People exposed to smoke have a much higher risk of lung, colorectal, breast, bladder, and blood cancer. Meanwhile, UK lawmakers are taking aim at a different kind of smoke, cigarette smoke. Parliament passed a law this week banning the sale of tobacco products to anyone born after 2009 or later. That means children age 17 or younger will face a lifelong ban on buying cigarettes. Polling suggests the majority of the British public back the ban.
I gave her up 8 years ago. Really? Yeah. But no, I think it's a terrific idea.
I think any effort to reduce smoking is good. But I just wonder how effective it'll actually be.
Overall, I think it'll be a good thing for public health.
Government new powers to regulate vaping products, including rules on flavor and packaging. Vaping will also be banned in cars with children, as well as in playgrounds, outside schools, and near hospitals. The law could take effect as soon as this week. Still ahead, our next story, a cold case, a grieving family, and a stunning twist. Investigators had DNA evidence for decades. Why didn't it lead to an arrest? Well, for decades, the family of Tanya Frazier had been frustrated with no arrests made in her murder. Now, it turns out investigators had the DNA to put the killer behind bars all along. So why did it take 32 years? Andy Judson with our Seattle sister station dug in to find a surprising answer.
When I think about her, I don't know, I just think about like, who would she be? Like, would she have kids? What would she have done? What impact would she have like made on the world?
32 years ago, Tira Frazier lost her sister to a killer. The King 5 investigators found the entire time the murderer's DNA was sitting in a system specifically meant to connect physical evidence with suspects.
It's what's made me think they never like tried. But you have evidence.
In July 1994, Tanya was just 14 years old when she vanished after leaving summer class at Meany Middle School. 5 days later, her body was found along East Highland Drive, blocks from where she was last seen. She'd been sexually assaulted and stabbed.
She turned up dead on Saturday in this field near the Arboretum, found by a man walking his dog.
Well, everybody's just devastated. I mean, totally devastated.
But the case went cold. Seattle detectives could not find a match for male DNA found on Tanya's body.
We had somebody who we thought it might be him, said, hey, why don't you give us your DNA sample? And he agreed, and it wasn't him.
He's retired now, but as a homicide detective, Hoyt Steiger says Tanya's case always stuck with him.
I've had to sit and talk to families whose loved ones were murdered, and they're devastated, and they're more devastated by not knowing who did it.
It makes it hard to trust people because, like, who was this person, and did we trust them, and like they did this?
To Tira, not having answers never made sense.
From day one, there was DNA. Like you have skin under your nails, like you have semen. That seems like more than enough to be able to identify somebody.
The Frazier family was so frustrated they hired a private investigator, Rose Winquist.
There's Tanya's box. It's been a long, long journey with this family, and for many years, you know, they've just been in the dark.
A breakthrough in a 30-year-old Seattle murder case.
Then, 5 months ago, the call finally came. There'd been a match and an arrest.
I stood there, just like stood there, and then I started bawling. And then I was like, I don't even know, like I'm not sad, but I'm definitely not happy. And it was just like so emotional. I looked at his pictures for a long time because it was just so like, this is the person. There's a lot of gratitude. Like, I'm so grateful that they didn't just give up on this, like that they did solve this, but like, why did it take so long?
Police arrested Mark Anthony Russ. His bail, $1 billion, because he'd been in trouble with the law before. He'd spent 25 years in prison for 4 felony convictions, one of those for attempted rape. By law, felony offenders must give their DNA to a national database.
If there's somebody in there that has that DNA, it'll hit. It'll go, this is the person.
The King 5 investigators found that Mark Russ's DNA was collected in 1991. That's 3 years before he allegedly murdered Tanya. So why weren't investigators able to connect the dots?
The suspect wasn't a suspect until 31 years later.
The Washington State Crime Lab says they tried for years.
9 different times we had requests for new testing. 9 different times we responded to that request. 9 different times we made different submissions, and the last one worked.
Why the last one? Like, what was different?
So we were able to separate the male DNA from the female DNA.
That was key. Before that last try, the technology needed to separate Tanya's DNA from the perpetrators didn't exist. The lab couldn't pull out the male's unique DNA until now.
But when we can zero in on just that and test just that and run just that through this thing, it doesn't confuse the system, it clarifies the system.
People close to Tanya's case are worried. If it took decades to identify Mark Russ in her case, were others missed?
I would be like very surprised if he had not done this other times. Like, very surprised.
In loving memory of.
What if he potentially raped other women? And what if their rape kits got entered into the system, but because of the statute of limitations, what if their DNA, what if that rape kit is gone?
For years, there was a massive backlog of untested rape kits in the state of Washington.
I'm sure there are cases out there, and there are perpetrators out there that benefited from that system, that situation.
But now, with new technology, the State Patrol has a message for violent criminals.
There may be somebody out there who did something bad 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. We're going to knock on your door someday. Be afraid.
The trial date in this case is set for May 21st. Mark Anthony Russ has pled not guilty. Andy Judson, King 5 News.
Coming up, high gas prices have some drivers going green. When it makes sense to switch to an electric vehicle and when it's best to stick with what you've got. Well, more drivers are choosing to go to electric cars or switch to hybrid cars. But now, some dealers are struggling to keep up with the sudden demand. Savannah Welch talked to one dealer who says it might be best to stick with what you have.
As soon as the gas prices went up, I was getting crazy calls, phone ringing off the hook.
Gas prices are climbing again across Washington, and for one Seattle car dealer, business is booming.
This one has an inverter, and then your typical combustion engine.
Jason, owner of Auto Avia in Soto, says demand for hybrids has spiked in just a few weeks as drivers look for relief at the pump. That surge is also pushing prices higher, making it tougher to keep cars on the lot. Jason says he sources his vehicles from auctions, repair shops, and word of mouth. But now he's facing more competition than ever.
Dealer auctions, prices up for these cars have almost doubled. So if I'm sourcing them for twice as much, they're gonna have to sell for a lot more as well, which I'm not looking forward to.
And it's not just what people are buying, it's how they're getting around.
I had multiple customers say before they bought a car, they sold their gas guzzler, and they've been just taking the bus or the train, the light rail. So when they come to pick up their car, I usually pick them up at the light rail station.
He says even if gas prices come down, he still expects strong demand to last through the summer.
If you're gonna make the switch, or you already have an older car, I would say, don't be afraid to do your own research, get second opinions, just fix your stuff. That is the most economical thing you can do right now.
It's time to break down your forecast and what we are seeing here on this Sunday. It has been a little bit of a chilly start here as we've been waking up across the inland northwest. So just know that after this colder start, our temperatures are going to climb back into the low to mid 50s, which is still slightly below our average, but we'll see a gradual warming trend as we move through the end of this week. Now, today we are going to see a good amount of sunshine. However, we still have this slight chance of a hit or miss shower, but we'll get into that in just a moment. Your temperatures that we're reaching this afternoon, we're at 56 degrees for Spokane and Coeur d'Alene, 57 for Deer Park. We do have some low to mid 60s for Ritzville and Moses Lake. 70 degrees is what we're looking at south to Richland in the Tri-Cities. And then for my friends in the LC Valley, some upper 50s to low 60s that direction. And out toward western Montana, they're trending a little bit cooler, just 49 degrees for Libby and 48 for Kalispell. Now, as we get into your future tracker here, we're off to a drier start to the day today. We'll gradually see some partly cloudy skies as we head into this afternoon. And similar to what we saw yesterday afternoon, because of a disturbance that's primarily impacting the state of Montana, we're looking at a very slight chance of a hit or miss shower here and there. So just know that it isn't going to be too impactful. In general, we're trending mostly dry, but it's at about a 10 to 20% chance where we could quickly see that this afternoon before we start to see some increasing clouds overnight tonight and into the start of our Monday. As we look across the rest of the nation here, we're sitting at 80 degrees this afternoon for Tulsa, 89 for Dallas. In Portland, Oregon, we're at 66 degrees this afternoon, 61 for San Francisco, 79 for Phoenix, and out toward Atlanta, 83 degrees is that daytime high. But I want to show you what's to come, because actually when it comes to this upcoming week here, we're going to be trending a bit above average and warm for the incoming week. So as we take a look at the rest of the nation, that's not entirely true. The Pacific Northwest is going to be trending warmer when it comes to our seasonal averages and what we're used to seeing. We've got cooler air moving into parts of the Midwest as well as even toward parts of the South. But as we move into Bloomsday here, this is going to be helpful as we're getting a first look at some drier conditions as well as warmer temperatures through that extended forecast. So when it comes to planning things out accordingly, if you've been wanting some warmer temperatures, we kind of just have to get into the middle to end of this upcoming week.
In the middle of a busy hospital, a piano is a different kind of medicine. How music is helping patients feel better, no prescription needed. All right, friends, we want to say thank you for joining us here on this Sunday morning. But Jenny, before we go, we've got a story I think will bring a big smile to a few of your faces.
Yeah, that's right. It's a reminder to slow down, smile, and sing. Check this out.
When the night has come.
You'd be forgiven for mistaking this for a concert hall or church, but this sing-along is actually happening in the middle of a hospital. And it struck a chord with patients and their families.
It hit me from the door, man. It was wonderful.
This piano is set up in the atrium of New York City Health and Hospitals, Queens, where patients wait to see their doctor. And its placement is strategic.
What happens at the hospitals, people are very stressed. The staff are stressed, the patients are stressed, the family members are stressed.
The music works to treat those symptoms.
People slow down, they pause, they smile. They've actually told me, thank you for changing the course of my day. You've made such a difference.
The pianos come from Sing for Hope, a nonprofit providing music to communities. Sometimes they bring in professional musicians, but today it's regular doctors and nurses joining in the sing-along.
It won't be long.
Sing for Hope co-founder Monica Eunice says they found music has a healing effect, not just for patients, but for hospital staff as well.
It reduces cortisol, it gives us a sense of humanity, it reduces staff burnout, all the things that all hospitals really need to be doing.
I think it's fantastic.
The piano pulled in Calvin Robinson, who came for a prescription.
Much better. I don't need the medication today.
A simple idea bringing music to the ears where you don't usually find it. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
Jenny, I love everything about that. I truly do. I would be in there absolutely with them, singing my little heart out, and I'd be belting out, Jenny. So,
do you have a go-to song you would sing if they could do it on the piano?
I don't know. I like My Girl by the Temptations, and then obviously, Stand By Me is a really good one too, So maybe we can start doing that here on the news. We just start, singing, and we just, bring our news and our, energy out to the inland Northwest.
Yeah. I do really like that because it is a true reminder, like it's the little things in life, right? You just got to enjoy the moment and really lean in.
When the nights
see
are young. Come on now, Jenny.
Good. We need a piano, a studio piano.
Can you play the piano?
I do like chopsticks on the piano.
Chopsticks? All right, that's good enough. I can sing to that too. So I'll stop messing with you though. I appreciate you, Jenny, and I appreciate you all out there for watching us here on Up with KREM. Lots of news throughout the day that you can keep up with on KREM 2 Plus and then on the airwaves as well. But we'll be back here on Up with KREM Monday morning.
Have a great day, guys.